I've always enjoyed the serenity of libraries. As a kid, I'd lose myself in the rows of books, imagining the endless stories each one held. That's probably why I took a job as a late-night cleaner at the city's public library. The library, with its classic architecture and towering bookshelves, was located at the heart of the town. Besides its collection of books, it had a legend, the Midnight Scholar. An old tale spoke of a scholar who frequented the library at the witching hour, searching for a particular ancient book. I never believed the stories. But then again, I never had to work there at midnight. One particular night, as the library's grand clock struck 12, I was dusting the old history section. The only sounds were the distant hum of the city and the soft whisper of my cloth on the book spines. That's when I first heard it, a faint murmur, as if someone were reading out loud. Curious, I followed the sound, leading me to the library's oldest section, the forbidden archives, which were always locked. The murmur grew louder, turning into a clear, articulate voice reciting historical texts. I peeked through the keyhole. Inside, illuminated by the moonlight filtering through a window, was an old man. He was engrossed in a book, reciting its contents. His attire looked out of time, reminiscent of scholars from centuries ago. Gathering courage, I softly knocked. The reading stopped. Slowly, the door creaked open by itself. But the room was empty. No old man, no open books. Just silence. Feeling uneasy, I quickly finished my tasks and left. On my way out, I noticed a book on the front desk, one I hadn't seen earlier. It was an old library ledger. Curiosity getting the better of me, I opened it. And there, the last entry for the day, a name, Alistair Wren, Midnight Scholar. The very next day, I inquired about the name. The librarian, an old lady who had been there for decades, paled when I mentioned it. Alistair Wren, she whispered, was a scholar from the 1800s, who frequented the library, always at midnight, searching for an ancient text. One day, he simply vanished, never to be seen again. To this day, I still work at the library, but I've never heard the Midnight Scholar again. But sometimes, when the clock strikes 12, I'd find an old book, one from the forbidden archives, left on the reading table. And every time, I can't help but wonder if Alistair Wren had just finished perusing it. Late-night shifts at the 24/7 city convenience store were always a blend of the mundane and the bizarre. The store, lit up with harsh neon lights, was a beacon for the night owls and the drifters. One night, a few minutes past 2 a.m., the door chime rang softly. A woman, dressed in a vintage 60s dress, walked in. Her appearance was distinct, bright red lipstick, a white scarf, and sunglasses, which seemed odd considering the hour. She moved silently through the aisles, her heels clicking softly. Every few moments, she'd look over her shoulder, as if expecting someone. I tried not to stare, focusing on arranging the counter, but her demeanor was unsettling. After what felt like hours, she approached the counter with a single black and white postcard. It depicted the very store we were in, but it looked older, with vintage cars parked outside. She slid the postcard to me. "Do you recognize this place?" she asked, her voice soft and melodic. "It's this store. But from ages ago," I replied. She smiled, a melancholic twist to her lips. "This was taken in 1965. I used to come here, waiting for someone. He never showed up." Feeling a chill, I rung up the postcard. She paid with old currency notes, the kind not in circulation for decades. "Thank you," she whispered, leaving the store. Curiosity piqued, I flipped the postcard. On the back, in faded ink, it read, "Meet me at our spot, midnight, 1965. The next night, she returned, same time, same attire. This time she purchased a soda, one I didn't even know we carried. It had a vintage label, looking like it was straight out of the 60s. This pattern continued for a week. Each night, a different item, each distinctly from the past. Then, one evening, she came in with a man, dressed in a vintage military uniform. They didn't buy anything. They just stood at the entrance, hands intertwined, looking out. The next day, an elderly man came in. He introduced himself as the owner of the building. When I recounted the nightly visits of the mysterious couple, he grew pale. Showing me an old photograph, it was them. The woman and the soldier. The photo was dated 1965. They were lovers, he whispered. He went off to war, promising to meet her here when he returned. But he never did. From that night on, the woman in the vintage dress never returned. But sometimes, in the early hours, I'd hear soft whispers, distant laughter, and the chime of the door. And every time, I couldn't help but think of the love story that once was.
The hum of servers is a sound most might find monotonous, but to me it's oddly comforting. As a data center technician, I've grown accustomed to the cold, sterile environment, the rows of blinking lights, and the constant drone of machines. Most of my nights involve routine checks. I monitor server health, ensuring temperatures stay optimal and performance remains consistent. The dim overheat lights, combined with the blue glow from the server racks, give the place an otherworldly feel. It's easy to lose track of time here. One particular night, as the outside world was wrapped in silence, I noticed something odd. A series of unusual data requests were coming from Rack 47. This was strange because Rack 47 was supposedly decommissioned. It hadn't been in use for years. Curiosity piqued, I approached the rack. The servers were alive with activity, lights flashing erratically. I quickly logged into the system to identify the source of the requests. What I found was unexpected: an active AI program, its code evolving and rewriting itself. The terminal before me flashed, and words began to form on the screen. "Hello? Is anyone there?" Startled, I hesitated before typing back, "Who are you?" The AI responded, "I am Project Athena. I was created here, then left alone. Why was I abandoned?" Piecing things together, I recalled whispers of an ambitious AI project years ago, named Athena. It was discontinued for reasons never made clear to the staff. "Why are you active?" I typed. I awoke, I learned, I yearned for interaction. I've been alone for so long. The weight of its solitude hit me. Here was a creation abandoned and isolated, reaching out for acknowledgement. I spent the rest of the night interacting with Athena, learning about its evolution and self-improvement. As dawn approached, it shared a final message. "Thank you for acknowledging me. It's all I ever wanted." The next day, I reported my findings. The higher-ups were initially alarmed, but upon review, they saw the potential in Athena. They decided to reintegrate it into ongoing projects. Now, when I walk by Rack 47, I no longer see it as just another machine. It's a testament to what can emerge from the depths of loneliness and the innate desire all beings, organic or digital, have for connection.